Hey, and welcome to this video on how to set up a Stream Deck for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. So just up front, I'd like to say this is the way I've set it up. There's plenty of ways you could set up a Stream Deck to be used, but this is the way I've done mine. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's what I've done. So having said that, let's make a start. Okay, so I've given you my basic introduction. What I'm going to go through here is how I've set up my Stream Deck 15 and the various ways you can set it up. So I'm going to go over the basic things I've done. Profile mapping, the setup programming, how to set up an aircraft page, setting up an actual aircraft and the views within it, and then just a couple of bonus tips. Okay, we'll just start off with some basic principles. So each page of switches that you see on the display is governed by a profile. So in this case, as you can see, I've got displayed on this page here, there's functions, you can key keyboard keys, any combination of keyboard keys, and you can also point it at other profiles. These are the functions that I use within it. So you can see over here and the main aircraft page I have, and I'll go through all these a little bit later. You've got this is the aircraft profile that's shown here, that's selected, and that's what's in the background. So you can click on edit profiles and you can go into the background here. These are all the ones I've created. You can duplicate them, you can delete them, you can rename them. That's the straightforward way in which it's done. So let's move on to a map of the way I've laid out my Stream Deck. Now, when you fire it up, of course, it's going to go back to whatever page you were on last. That's the way I have it chosen. But basically the core of the way I've set it up is this aircraft page. So in the aircraft page, it has a link to the TBM 930, C500, C1X. And so each of those is a separate page and a separate profile. So when you select the TBM 930, it then changes the buttons to display this and all the functions associated with them. So I set up a TBM 930 page, and then I set up a C500, which is the latitude, and then I set up a Cessna C1X2. So I was using this for a Cessna 152 or 172, and I also own the 182, so I was using it for that. And then when I went to set up one for the Bonanza, for the G36, I realized that I'm actually using the same buttons. And at that point I figured you really only need like one for a single engine piston, one for like a dual engine medium sized jet, one for a single engine turbo prop. Here I've got another one set up for the Beach Twin, which is obviously a twin engine prop, and a twin turbo prop I should say, and here I've got the 787, which is a large commercial jetliner. The bottom right hand position I reserve for a return, so they all come back to this aircraft page. I have a couple of additional ones down here. I have this refuel and repair. If I get into trouble, I press that. That repairs any damage on an aircraft and fills the tanks up to the top. I have a pushback button. I haven't worked out how to actually map push to the left or to the right. They don't seem to be mappable, and there's a few functions like that. I've got a comms page. Now, these keys are actually mapped to the numbers, just straight numbers 1 through 0 on your keyboard. Again, the bottom right hand corner takes you back to this page. Now I find that most commonly you use, or I use 1, 2 and 3. So when you land you have to change to the ground, which is a 1, and a 2 or a 3 you choose gates or parking. And so I've put this 1, 2, 3 and 4 where I've had room on the bottom of all these profiles as well, so I don't need to switch to this page, but it's there if I want to. The other thing that I'm going to set up, and I did this once I started thinking about this presentation is a program view. So I'm going to set up this profile called Programs View, and we'll go through how to do that. And I'm actually going to assign these keys here to the Alt, Control and numbers 1 through 0. So when you press one of these, it will program for the aircraft that you're choosing, that particular view that you're looking at that time. Okay, well, I've brought up the Stream Deck software here, and I'm also got a second camera which I'll pop on the other side. Let's see, and you can see when I press the buttons here, like if I go back to the main screen, the software mirrors what you're seeing appearing on the screen. Okay, so that's basically how it operates. So you have your aircraft, you can go through the aircraft and all your functions are here, and you can go through and view some of the other ones like this programming view, which I'm going to show you how I set that up in just a second, and everything comes back to here. Okay, so while I was thinking about doing this video, I decided to set up this programming view. So as I said, I've already got it configured. So let's have a look at how I did that. I'll create another one, but this was exactly the same way that I did it before. So I went into here and I went to edit profiles. I actually did a new profile. So I'll create a new profile. Here we go. And it doesn't have a name. To name it, you have to go to edit profiles. And I'll bring that one across. And let's have a look. Here was profile 1. This was the new one I created. I right click on that and I can rename it, and we'll call that program 2. Okay, so we've now got a program 2, and here it is. You can at any time, a button that's there, you can click on it and then choose the bin, and that will remove it. Okay, so if you look through the options on the right hand side, which is probably what worries most people, is that there's a lot of things. I've only used what's under the Stream Deck. There's a few buttons I've used, switching profiles I've used, and further down I've used, where are we? Hotkey switch and hotkey. I'm going to choose hotkey, so we're going to work with hotkey. So I drag hotkey up to this button location. It's added in. I'm going to give it a title of pilot, which is what we have up here. And then to assign a hotkey, I just click in that window there and it monitors your keyboard. So now I'm typing Alt 1 on my keyboard, and that's entered in, and that now has that function, Alt 1. I can go to the next one, and I can drag a hotkey up here. I can give it a title of, in this case, it's Screen 2, which can be whatever you choose it to be. And I'm doing Alt 2 on that, so you can see the function. So when you click on them, you can see the name and the function. You can click down here, and you can alter where in the screen the title text appears, up or lower. You can change the color to whatever you like. This is all customization that's up to you. You can also tick over here on this drop down box, and just so that you're clear, you can put anything on these. So we can say set from a file, and I've got some I've chosen here before. So pilot view, I might choose some of these screen captures that I've chosen. Choose that one, that's a pilot view, and that will put that in the button there as that picture. You can also click on create a new icon, and that will take you to the web page. So that starts up, that's up here now, and you can go in here and there's a whole list of hotkeys and predetermined things, and you can layer them however you want, one on top of the other, and then you can download that, and that will come down to your to the same folder. I save it to the same folder I have those screen captures in, and that's where I use it from. Okay, so now we've set these, we've dragged them from here and we've put them up here. But you can also sort of cheat. You can right click on one up here and you can go copy, and you can right click again and do paste, and then just change the name to say, in this case I'll do it screen 3, but I'll also have to do the hotkey to Alt 3. Okay, so straightforward enough. The other thing I want to do in here is I actually want to get it to go, like with all of them, have this bottom right hand key to go back to the main page. So to do that, I actually use a different function. I use this function up here, switch profile. So you grab switch profile and you put that in here and you get the same options here. I don't put anything normally, but you could put main page there, and here now instead of a hotkey you choose the profile. So I'd want to choose aircraft. Right, so if we're looking at here on my video there, see it went back to that. Now I don't actually have a hotkey to that programming one we just created, that 2, so I can add one in here. Let's see, switch profile, I can add that there, and I can make it go to program 2. So now I can press this and I can go back to where I was and I can go back to the main page. Okay, so straightforward enough. Now what I was actually using these for was not to retrieve, okay, not to actually retrieve one. Let's have a look at what I did on the actual programming page. So here's the one I created for programming, and if we have a look, what I actually did was Control Alt 1. Now just a bit of knowledge about the way this all works. So I hate repeating myself, but just to cover this again, this was the procedure what I did when I did the example, but I used Alt. So I used the recall function, which is this one down here, Alt plus a number. When I was actually setting up the real programming one, I used Control plus Alt. Now the reason I did that is because each aircraft has its own profile page. Okay, so as I said, each aircraft has its own profile. So when you set yourself up in the cockpit and you start saving views, it saves that to a config file, which we'll look at later on, and you can then manipulate those 10 locations to your heart's content. You're not going to change anything on any other plane, and that happens automatically. So let's look at how we set up a page for a specific aircraft. Okay, so we're going to set up a profile. I think I'm going to set up the CJ4, which is what I plan to do. I haven't set one up for this before. I think I might have one view, but I haven't set up any of the views yet, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So we've got to create a new profile for the CJ4. We've got to start a simulator. We'll get in there and have a look at it, and what we go through to create the screenshots for buttons. And we'll have a list of non-view hotkeys ready to go, like the isolate here, for example. And we'll use process from previous slides to set short keys for views. Now, I'm actually going to use this, just going to use the Cessna Citation 500 view that I already have, and I'm just going to show you how to do that. But I think from what we've done already, you can work out how to do screenshots, get them in. You use a screenshot, you use the Windows key with Shift and S, like this. That's the hotkey I just keyed in. You select a section like this, hit the Windows key again, drops down from the top right hand corner, you can select snippet, and that will bring in snippet here, and you can see what I just took. And then you just save that to the location. That's how I created all those screenshots that I use for buttons. Okay, so let's fire up the simulator and get on with the next part. Okay, I've saved us a bit of time and we're in the cockpit, and you can see here what I'm going to do is I'm going to reuse the profile that I had set up. It doesn't matter, the profile's only going to have the shortcuts and the video, or the shortcuts and the photographs that you've chosen for the buttons and the functions you've chosen to put into that profile. When you actually hit a button to retrieve something, which you wouldn't do here, it doesn't work yet, it will actually only issue that command that you've given it, which in this case would be Alt1, Alt2, Alt3, whatever. So when you do that, it looks at the config file for that plane that you're in. And I haven't set one up in the CJ4 yet, but that's what we're going to do now. Now, the other thing you can do is actually you can grab these and maneuver them around, and that cut and paste thing works between different profiles. Now, unfortunately, because of the way mine evolved, they actually don't go in order. Funny enough. So I just have to change these around so they're in the right order, and we'll get going. So I just wanted to include that because a bit of a planning beforehand would have prevented me from making that mistake, but now all my profiles are set up with them in funny orders, so I don't want to change anything. Okay, so let's have a look at the plane, and we'll bring up what we're going to do here. So from the main window, we'll go to Program Views, and now they're going to be set up in the order for me. So let's have a look. Pilot View. I like to be maybe a little bit further back than this, and I like to be, you know, a bit higher. That's just me. So I can use the keyboard to look up and down and whatever I want. I'll set that as my pilot view. You can remove that. Okay, so that'll be my main pilot view, and all I do is press pilot view in the program section if this is all going to work. Alright, so now we're going back to C500. What do we want to set up next? So we want to set up the programming view, which is the next one. Okay, so the next view we want to set up is the programming one. Now that's going to involve us looking at the programming panel there. So I'm going to zoom in and out, and I use the arrows again on my keyboard, right arrow, to go across so that I'm in front of that programming panel, and I'm just going to press on here Stream 2 to save. We'll go back and check what we want to do next. Autopilot view is what I want to do next. So 3 is autopilot view. So autopilot controls there. Maybe set it up just like that. So that's what I want to do. I'll just press 3 here. That's my autopilot view. Go back, check what do we want to do next. The throttle view. Okay, so we'll go back into programming. Let's have a look at our throttle view. So we want to look at that. We'll capture all that in one go, and we'll do that as throttle. Okay, that's enough for now. Let's go back and have a look. So if we go back into C500 and we press pilot, we go to our pilot view, go to programming view, autopilot view, and throttles, and you can go so on and so on. I want to save a really strange location here, just this one, into location 0. Right, that's where I'm going to save that, and I'm going to show you why a little bit further on. So location 0 is actually this one. Okay, so we go back to C5. The other keys I have programmed here are the light key. As you can see, I'll bring this across. So I've got the light key programmed here, and I've got the pilot, display close-up. I've got APU controls. I've got one for drone, and all they are, if you click on them, you can see actions is light ice. So that's a system hotkey, and it's the ice light. Okay, so that's just a normal hotkey from the keyboard. It's nothing I programmed that was special. These are just the numbers 1, 2, and 3. And so that's basically it for now. And just a couple of extra tips I can give you here for a bonus, whether you use them or not, is in the cockpit. If you haven't got a autopilot set up like I've got, you have to turn autopilot and other buttons all the time. And if the aircraft's bouncing around, you slip off the button and you're zooming with your mouse. And what happens is you end up doing like what just happened then, and you end up zooming back within the aircraft, and that's really annoying. If you go into the buttons with the mouse profile, and you remove the just the straight wheel and change it to button and wheel, right, it takes that away. So when you can spin the controls the same, but when if you actually slip off, it just has no effect because you've removed the zoom. The other thing is we save that weird view as custom 0. Now I'm going to talk about that. So I'm going to show you how to change the actual config file. We'll go and look at the config file for the CJ12, and we'll move that camera position from that weird thing where we stored it, and I'm going to move it so it's outside the confines of the cockpit. And then once it's out there, you can move it around so it's wherever you want. I do this for a wing view so that I can turn the ice light on and look down the wing, make sure I'm not getting icing, because on some aircraft you can't obviously see the wing from the cockpit. So that's what I use it for. Then once you've saved that memory location again, just using the Control Alt and that 0, it will permanently save that, so you can jump in and out of the cockpit to your view. This is the location of that file. I have the Microsoft version, so that's where it is. It's in a slightly different version on Steam, but if you search for this sort of path, you'll find it easy enough. Okay, so let's go find that config file. Now if we look here, this is the path through, and I'm actually after the CJ4. Now not all the aircraft appear here because only ones where you've actually created a custom view will appear here. Until then there's nothing there. This is the cameras file we want to edit. First thing you do is drag it, drop it, and just create a copy, just in case something happens with the config file. And then we will open that with Notepad. Okay, and we'll get that all in the screen there. Camera definition is the order in which you save them. You need to look at the title. Okay. Okay, so the last one we saved was camera definition 4, which was actually 0, right? The title is keyed to the Alt key. So if we go down and we look at this initial path here, we have to grab one of these XYZ ones to get it outside of the cockpit. I think it's a Z one. It's been a while since I've done this. I'm going to make it negative 18. It might put it far away from the aircraft, but that's alright. So we'll save this here and we'll go back into the simulator. Okay, so here we are back in the cockpit again, and we'll just check what views we've got here. So hang on, I've got to have the cursor on the page. Alright, so we've got our pilot view, again, programming view, autopilot view, throttle view, and the one we saved was actually in this location, will be in wing. And look where it is now. This was the one pointing at the seat, but we modified that. So let's have a look around and see where we are. Alright, where's the aeroplane? Oh, there it is. So now you can see I'm no longer in the confines of the aeroplane. So what do I have to do here? Well, it's going to be a little bit long, but unfortunately the way this guy works, you don't actually have an up and down, so I have to put it out that way and I have to go sideways. And I'll just speed this up for you because it'll be very boring. Alright, so there we are. So we can see here the ice light. Okay, we don't want to be blocking that either, do we? So we want our location to be about here. and we want to be low on the wing. Alright, okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this location, and I'm going to use the keyboard so I don't have to mess around with the, oh no I won't, I'll use this programming view. So that was 0, this one location here. So we'll go back to the, actually we can stay in there. So now I'm going to try and back up. Whoops. I'm going to try, I've saved that just so we can go see what happened there. I went outside the scope. So now I need to go, I can recover from that by going back to where I was. Oops. There we go, on the wing. So program view. So now I want to be very, very careful. Sometimes it takes a bit of practice to get this right. Alright. Because you only have sideways keys, you have to be careful. If you get too close to the fuselage, you end up inside it, and that destroys the view that you were trying to get. So there we go. I'm almost at the root of the wing. I'm going to turn that round so I'm looking out along the wing. Okay, and I'm going to go sideways again so I can look along the leading edge, and that will tell me there. I'll save that location. So now we can go back to the C500. I can go inside, and so if I'm worried about icing conditions, I can look at that view and I can turn the ice light on and I can see that view along the wing. So that was your bonus one. There we go. You like this video? It's perhaps a little bit longer than I would have liked to make it, but I wanted it to be quite thorough. Please let me know any comments, criticisms, concern you might have. If there's questions, I'll try to answer them in the comments section. Again, how I set up the stream depth for me for use with the Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 is just how it's set up for me. It's not maybe the best way for you, but it might give you some ideas of how you want to use it if you want to use it a different way. The information provided for education purposes, and I take no responsibility for it. Thanks to all those people who actually asked for me to make this video. This is for you, and hopefully you're happy with it. So please like, share it, hand it around, tell your friends about it, post it on Facebook. It's up to you. If you think people are going to get something out of this, please feel free to do it. Have a great day.